Hey guys, Ron here. Well, tonight I'm going to be walking by the boats again in a couple minutes, and tonight's subject is, so you'll have something interesting to look at: the harbor, the boats, the warm night air that I can feel, you cannot, but you can imagine it. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people walking dogs and hanging out, because when the temperature hits 70 at night, people are out. In the winter I come here, nice and quiet. But suffice it to say, if I have to pause a little, I will, but I don't think I will. Anyway, tonight's subject is the actor, what I call, as you see in the title, controversial filmmaker, or at least used to be controversial filmmaker, Mel Gibson. And let me say too, folks, that I don't judge my subjects at all. I just try to, if I'm speaking about a particular subject, whether it's at a location or not, it's because I find them really interesting, really fascinating. And Mel Gibson I find very fascinating because I'm trying to say this without having an opinion, but we all have opinions, don't we? I mean, so there's no judgment, negative or positive. I shouldn't say that because, okay, already there's 20 people on the sidewalk. Well, they're just coming from every direction. Okay, so, yes, we're going. So, Mel Gibson is not just an actor. He's kind of like an auteur. He's directed some huge films like Passion of the Christ and oh my God, where's my, actually it's interesting because how fascinating he is. I'm probably the only one on this video, including you guys watching, that hasn't seen Passion of the Christ. I have not seen it. And I haven't even seen, I haven't seen Passion of the Christ or Braveheart. Kind of interesting. I've only seen the films that sort of he was hired to act in. Let's see what's going on here at this pool. So I have been here before. I walked by here in the fall, winter, dead as a doornail. And now look at that, people in the pool. This is a pretty bitchin' pool, huh? Right on the harbor. Swimming in the pool at night. I'm sure we got some action over there in the jacuzzi. I don't mean action, but like action. Okay, so I was talking about Passion of the Christ. So Mel Gibson is a director. He is an actor, and he was mostly in the early to mid 2000s embroiled in a lot of controversy, and was actually kind of de facto blacklisted for about 5 years. And as of the time of this filming, he's a gun for hire. He's been acting pretty steadily again after his blacklisting, or whatever you want to call it, out from the industry. And it looks like he's making a sequel to Passion of the Christ. Crazy. So, turn around here. Whoa. And it's everywhere's a party. It's just so interesting what weather and night of the week does for people coming out. I'm one of those rare types who I could be out, and I most of the part am out. I mean out like outside. It must be real claustrophobic, so I can be out 365 days a year, nights a year. Now, that being said, you know that I'm in Southern California, so I don't have to stay in due to snow. Not a lot of rain that keeps me in, although I will say months ago, it actually rained for 36 hours straight, and that was hell on earth. I really hated it, mostly because my dog wouldn't do his business on his walks, and for a day, and that's never happened before. He just hates the rain, and I'm not crazy about it either. It was damn cold too. Anyway, I'm getting way off track, so let me go back to Mel Gibson. So Mel Gibson, in my research, I found out a lot of things I did not know about him. Mel Gibson actually was born in America, in Peaksville, New York, in, I guess, the mid-50s, late 50s. Very Catholic family. His father, who I'm going to be talking about a lot, his father, Hutton Gibson. I can't think of a bigger example of a father being an influence on a son. more than Hutton Gibson and Mel Gibson. Now, Mel was far from the only child. It was a big Catholic family of about 10 kids, although I may be wrong about that. Now, Hutton Gibson, very strong Catholic, definitely the head of the family, and in the years it's come out that he has some very ideas that have been very radical. He's been called a Holocaust denier, an anti-Semite, views about African Americans, views about Christianity, Catholicism in particular versus other religions, certain political views. So he has raised the specter of controversy a lot with his views, and it certainly seems that Mel was influenced by these views. And when asked about it, reporters have been in the past trying to get Mel to disavow his father's, what they consider his bigoted or radical views and beliefs, and Mel has just cut them off basically and said, "That's my father. Don't try to." He told Diane Sawyer, "Don't try to put a wedge between us. That's my father, and that's between me and him." I would imagine, again, this is all my interpretation, I would imagine by saying that Mel loves and admires his father and stands toe-to-toe, shoulder-to-shoulder with his father in those same beliefs. But if he said that outright, he'd never work in Hollywood again. So, same thing if he were a politician. So, I don't know. I just suspect that, what can I say? It's a bond between between a father and a son. Anyway, so he's born in Peaksville. They live in New York. And around the age of 12, Hutton moves the entire family, all the Gibsons, to Australia. They moved them out to Australia ostensibly because the oldest son was just then of age to be drafted into the Vietnam War, and Hutton didn't want him to go to war. But there's also a belief that Hutton believed that Australia's Catholics were much more conservative than America's Catholics, and that perhaps the country as a whole, boy, has that turned around. Pretty liberal country like America now. But I guess in the 60s he believed it was more conservative. Look at that moon. In fact, when the family got to Australia, there was a big dog there. When the family got to Australia, Hutton opened up his own church there, basically out of his house, and which kind of echoed what his son Mel would do decades later here in Los Angeles area in Agoura Hills. Mel opened a church as well. So they moved to Australia, and I think that move seemed to be the single most difficult occurrence in Mel Gibson's life, because especially at 12 years old, he goes there. He's the American kid with the American accent, and people who knew him there in Australia said that they were not very kindly. Unfortunately, it's the certain political belief in America, or at least by half of Americans in America, is such a racist, bigoted country. But Australia apparently was, by the account of Australians who knew Mel, said they were absolutely not accepting of these Americans coming over, and they were very bigoted against Americans. I hope it's improved since then, but apparently Mel was bullied and taunted and a lot, and had a difficult time making friends, and that's when he started to drink. And it seems that that's where his alcoholism started. Now, brings up the saying of Mel Gibson is admitted being a severe alcoholic for decades. Whether he's kicked it or not, I don't know. I've seen experts interviewed who said that by his behavior, in other words, like through the 2000s, he had 3 DUIs, one in each decade, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, meaning they thought that Mel Gibson is or was what they consider a binge drinker, somebody to go on a bender, then stop and go on a bender again, which is why he could kind of be in control for a while and then go completely out of control when he goes on these benders. So that obviously, and then back in control. And that obviously has influenced his behavior through the decades too. So Mel married his wife very, very young. In fact, they met in the 70s. I believe they were married in 1979 or perhaps 1980. So certainly before Mel was a movie star, or he was just starting to get a foothold in film in Australia. And then his ascent was pretty quick with Mad Max, and then America Road Warrior, and then The Bounty, and if you've seen The Bounty is a remake of Mutiny on the Bounty in 1984. Anthony Hopkins playing the famous Captain Queegan, and Mel Gibson, the leader of the mutiny, as it were, as first officer. But Mel is so intense in that film, and apparently Anthony Hopkins, himself a recovering alcoholic, had a talk with Mel and told him, if you want to, you're a young guy, you've got everything going for you. If you want to make it in this business, I'm paraphrasing, gave him the old "settle down, son" speech. I'm trying to help you. So throughout the 80s, Mel's star was on its ascendancy. He became a star, rather quickly in America. He and his wife moved to America. They had, I believe, 6 children themselves. Mel starred in the Lethal Weapon franchise. So I believe it was 3 films, and it is said that he would start by the mid 80s, when he was doing Lethal Weapon, and it is said that he would have literally 5 or 6 beers before he even arrived to the set, and then drink throughout the day. It's been speculated that he is bipolar or unipolar mania, but who knows? As Mel Gibson's star continued to climb, he would say to interviewers, you can interview me, but you're not going to find out about me. You're not going to learn anything about me. And what he was saying, in effect, was that he's a very private person who can control access to his personal life, and that there wouldn't be much access to his personal life. But as things started to spin out of control, we'll talk about that in a minute, it wasn't exactly true, because especially in the age of the internet, there's only so much one can control about their personal life and what we, the audience, can find out about them. So, this guy's got the view, huh? I don't know what's happening with this guy and his dog here. Maybe there's another person too. I don't think so. I hope not. Either that he was talking to himself. Okay, so it's really dark here. This is nice. So in let's see, what was this? I believe it was 94, around 94, 95. The idea for Braveheart comes along, and Mel was obviously a huge bankable movie star, and he wanted to direct the film, but he didn't necessarily want to star in it. But the studio said, if we're going to make it, you're going to star in it. They wanted his star power, and he did star in a film, and it was a huge hit. And about 5, 6, no, more than that, almost 10 years later, then there was The Passion of the Christ. And The Passion of the Christ was a huge hit, but also very controversial, known as a sort of a rewriting of the New Testament in a way that was considered anti-Semitic by some, by many. And Mel stuck to his guns and said, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm a lover of all people, the standalone, which proved kind of prophetic in what happened next. So there's the Passion of the Christ controversy, but still everything's going pretty swimmingly until, I believe it was in 2006, Mel's arrest in Malibu. And I believe he was coming, let me think of the name of the restaurant, because I've been to the restaurant. There's photographs of him hanging out with 3 or 4 blondes, young girls at the restaurant, and then he got stopped on Coast Highway up in Malibu, DUI, another driving under the influence. And he was saying inappropriate things to the police officers, including asking one if the officer was Jewish, which ironically, the officer was Jewish. I believe he was Asian and Jewish, or at least had an Asian-sounding name. Whole thing was kind of strange, so I'll have to research that. Saying things like Jews started all the wars in the world, which he later renounced. So this happens, and Mel's the thing about "You'll Never Know Me." Finally, Mel had to cop to it. He did a series of interviews saying, I was drunk, I have a drinking problem, I didn't know what I was saying, I'm not an anti-Semite, I don't believe Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world. He just did a mea culpa about all these outrageous things that he was saying, and it was sort of the apology tour. Well, that was kind of the last straw around that time for he and his wife, Robin. And after 28 years, they broke up. And that must have been huge, no matter what was going on with them, no matter whose decision it was or what was happening. After 28 years with someone, having several children together, I would imagine that a man, temperamental, intelligent, creative, needs what must have been, how much, sort of to a degree, rudderless. Not professionally, but in his personal spiritual self, because I would imagine it is said, and this does not surprise me at all, that Robin was really a great influence on his life for the most part, kept him much more even and steady than he might have been otherwise. And you see this with other people too. They lose that person in their life that is the stabilizing factor, and they're just kind of lost for a while. Well, apparently this really happened with Mel. Maybe he went crazy. I mean, he later said that they had lost or didn't have that spiritual component anymore, which is strange because he certainly claimed they had it decades earlier. So Mel gets into a relationship with a Russian-born singer-songwriter, and that relationship became very public when she, this must have been about 4 years later, released a series of audio tapes to the press of Mel on the phone with her. Now, I had never heard these before until I did the research, and I will tell you, you think the Alec Baldwin tape, talk about a temper. You think Alec Baldwin calling his daughter a pig was one thing, or even the Johnny Depp Amber Heard tapes between a couple, but you haven't heard anything, folks, until you've heard Mel Gibson going off. I mean, he's literally screaming so loud, so harshly in these tapes that at times it's just like grits, and you can almost hear the spit coming out of his mouth. Some have suggested he was very drunk at the time, because we know anecdotally, at least, and we see it if you watch if you watch the law enforcement shows like Cops or shows like that, which I tend to, you could see that people when they're drunk, they can get their emotions become heightened. They will cry, or they will yell and scream and have a hysterical fit. Then they will cry. Then they'll pass out, or whatever the case may be. But the emotions seem to be heightened, and he is frothing at the mouth, screaming at Oksana, I believe it was Oksana, his girlfriend or his late girlfriend. And it's the same theme I've seen with other wealthy men, celebrities. You're in my house, how dare you? I'm paying for the house you're in. You've insulted me, you've broken my heart, you've hurt me, he calls her every name in the book. She says you need help, she says you need medication, and he of course doesn't want to hear that. It was really brutal, really, really brutal. And then there was lawsuits and restraining orders on both sides. So you have the DUI, the divorce, and then 4 years later, the release of this screaming tape between him and Oksana. And that's pretty much it for Mel's reputation for about the next 4 or 5 years. And again, there was a bit of an apology tour, but also, I must say, there were other issues. He would go on interviews and they would all bring up the drunk driving arrest, which was maybe some of the interviews were about a year or around the same time as the famous leaked audio tapes, and he would many times end the interviews say that was 3 years ago, almost 4. He didn't want to talk about it. He hated the media, and they were, the more he tried to resist talking about it, the more the media seemed to try to get him to talk about it, and it seemed to be something he just wasn't going to do. So, like I said, after about a 5-year hiatus that, we can only speculate. Was it blacklisting? Was it, did he remove himself from the film business? Who knows? But he emerged in about 2016 and directed a film called Hacksaw Ridge, and all of a sudden he's got Oscar nominations again. And in the last several years, at the time of this filming, Mel is doing films. He's acting. He's still got a thick mane of hair, but it's gray, almost white, and a big gray beard. Certainly doesn't look like he looked before. I guess that image of world's sexiest guy or sexiest man alive or something, I guess maybe that kind of blew his mind too, because a person can take that, the pressure of that in many different ways as well. But he's still at it. He's certainly not, as the reputation of what he was. I don't know. I know that he poured about $30 million of his own money into Passion of the Christ to get it made. I don't know if he's financing the sequel, which it looks like there's going to be. I don't know whether the studios will bankroll him as a bankable movie star like he used to be, not just because he's in his mid-60s, but because of all the controversies. There's only so much that a person can do. But, he helped out Robert Downey Jr. when Robert Downey Jr. was at his worst, was in court, going to jail, and hooked on drugs, and close friends. And look at the comeback that Downey Jr. has made. Just remarkable. So there are comebacks in Hollywood. There is redemption. And it's just a really interesting thing. We don't know, again, we can only speculate on Mel Gibson's internal belief system. He does have a long-term partner again. Will he ever be married? Who knows? But we can only speculate on his belief system. If you're interested in the subject, though, check out Hutton Gibson, do some research on his dad, because I can understand as a man wanting to be, all men, I don't say all, but men want the approval of their father, and I'm sure Mel wanted the approval of his father, like we all do at certain, but I don't even know how to follow that up other than to say that I don't think there's going to be a renouncement anytime of his father's so-called or perhaps extreme beliefs, because it's his dad, so who knows? We'll just have to see. I think Gibson's probably at the point now where he just doesn't care. Well, that's what he says anyway. All right, folks. Well, it was great talking to you again. It's one-sided, but I'm hoping there will be some good comments. Anyway, thank you again for watching and listening. My name is Ron. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, please hit the little bell icon next to the subscription button, and then you'll be notified when I post. And also give the channel likes, folks. Please like, because that's what the algorithm depends on for YouTube, and then other people are exposed to the videos. And I do this because I love to. I don't make a cent off this, at least not yet. So keep watching, keep giving it likes, keep commenting, and I'll see you guys in the next location. Thank you. Bye-bye.